What would you do if the only way to escape an arranged marriage was to spend one unexpected night with a complete stranger? And what if, by Christmas morning, you discovered that stranger was actually a billionaire hiding in plain sight? If you love twists, Nigerian romance drama, and Christmas magic, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow for more stories like this. Harmattan had settled over Lagos like a whisper of chaos, dry, cold, restless. The season brought a strange calm, but inside the Nwokari mansion in Lekki Phase 1, the air felt tight, almost suffocating. The house sparkled with Christmas decorations, cascading fairy lights, velvet red ribbons on polished mahogany railings, and a giant artificial pine tree dripping with gold ornaments. Soft jazz versions of Christmas songs floated from hidden ceiling speakers. It should have felt warm, festive, comforting. But to Amarachi, it felt like the walls were closing in. She sat in the living room, surrounded by plush white couches, a marble floor so clean it shone like ice, and a chandelier casting dim, moody shadows. Her parents' voices echoed from the dining room, firm, confident, and completely unmoved by her pleading. "Amara, this is bigger than you," her mother said sharply. "This marriage will secure our family's future." "And ruin mine," she whispered, voice trembling. Her father didn't even look at her. His attention stayed glued to his phone. "The wedding date is set. January 15th. Preparations have already begun." A cold wave washed through her. A date? They had chosen a date without her? She pushed her chair back abruptly, its legs scraping against the marble like a cry for help. "Mummy, Daddy, please. I can't marry a man I've never met." Her mother's expression softened for half a second, just one heartbeat, then hardened again. "You're 24. It's time to think of stability." Stability. A polite word for obedience. Another word for sacrifice. And the man? A politician, businessman in his late 50s. Wealthy. Connected. The kind of man who didn't say good morning but "you're welcome" instead. Amarachi's pulse hammered in her ears. She didn't even hear the rest of her parents' arguments. She just saw their mouths moving, the lights flickering against their perfectly painted walls, and the Christmas tree sparkling like mockery. Her future was being planned without her. Her life chosen without her. Her freedom dismissed. Something inside her snapped. She stood abruptly, her chair nearly toppling. "I'm not doing this." Her mother's eyes widened. "Amara?" But she didn't stay to hear the rest. She walked out of the living room. Calmly. Slowly. But the moment she turned the corner, she broke into a sprint. Up the stairs, into her room, slamming the door shut. Her breath came in quick bursts. She grabbed a small backpack, shoved in her ATM card, hoodie, makeup purse, slippers, and a power bank. Her hands trembled as she pushed her window open and slipped out into the chilly night. She didn't know where she was going. She only knew she needed to be anywhere but here. The cold wind slapped against her skin as she walked down the quiet Lekki street, Christmas lights blinking mockingly on every gate. When she reached the main road, she flagged down a Bolt and climbed inside, heart still racing. "Where to?" the driver asked. She had no idea. But the first place that came to her mind was Victoria Island. Busy, alive, anonymous. "6," she said. "Just drop me at the roundabout." By the time the car rolled to a stop near a cozy lounge decorated with red lanterns and twinkling lights, Amarachi's head was pounding. The place looked warm, inviting, safe. She walked inside. And the moment she did, her entire world shifted. Because sitting alone in a dim corner, dressed simply but with a quiet confidence that drew the eye, was a stranger, one who would change the course of her life forever. But she didn't know that yet. All she knew was that he looked at her like he saw something she thought she had lost. A girl who still had choices. The lounge was everything Amarachi didn't know she needed. Warm lighting, Afrobeats humming softly under the buzz of conversations, and the comforting scent of grilled suya drifting through the air. Christmas ornaments hung from the ceiling in clusters, gold, emerald, and a bold Ankara print pattern that made the whole place feel culturally festive without trying too hard. She hesitated at the entrance, unsure if she should stay or walk back into the unknown night. But then she saw him. The stranger in the corner. He sat with an ease that didn't match his surroundings, like someone who could disappear into the background yet somehow command attention. His black shirt was simple, his wristwatch understated. No chains. No loud designer labels. Just calm, quiet confidence. And he was watching her. Not in a predatory way. Not in a curious way. But in a way that made her feel. See. Their eyes met for a moment, just a flicker, and something inside her stilled. She didn't realize she had been trembling until that moment. "Pull yourself together, Amara," she scolded silently. She approached the bar, asked for a Chapman, and wrapped her hands around the cold glass like it was some kind of anchor. She hadn't eaten since morning. Her throat was tight. Everything felt surreal, like she'd stepped outside her life and into a story she wasn't prepared for. She glanced around for somewhere to sit. All the tables were taken, except the one near him. He noticed her searching, then nodded slightly toward the seat across from him, a silent invitation. She hesitated. Sitting with a stranger? In Lagos? Was she mad? But then she looked at the alternative, going back into the cold night with nowhere to go. She took a deep breath, squared her shoulders and walked toward him. "Is this seat free?" she asked. He smiled, not a big smile, just a soft, knowing one. "Only if you want it to be." His voice was calm, rich, steady. She felt it settle in her chest. She sat. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't awkward, just uncharted. "You look like someone running from something," the stranger said finally, observing her, but not intruding. Amarachi blinked, startled. "Is it that obvious?" "Not obvious," he replied, taking a sip of his drink. "Just familiar." She tilted her head. "Familiar?" He nodded, eyes holding hers for a moment longer than expected. "Everyone has a night when they're trying to breathe." The words hit her harder than she expected. For the first time since she left home, she felt the tension in her shoulders loosen. "Amarachi," she offered quietly. "Tebena," he said. She waited for more, a surname, an explanation, but he didn't offer one. He seemed perfectly comfortable with silence, something rare in a city where everyone tried to impress or overshare. They talked. At first, lightly, music, the Christmas decorations, Lagos traffic, the best suya joints in town. But as the minutes rolled into hours, their conversation deepened in ways she didn't expect. He listened, really listened, like every word mattered. When she finally opened up about the arranged marriage, her voice cracking at the edges, Tebena didn't interrupt, judge, or offer cliches. He simply said, "No one should lose themselves to please others." Something warm unfurled in her chest. She didn't know why she trusted him. Maybe it was the way he carried his stillness. Maybe it was the genuine empathy in his eyes. Or maybe it was just destiny being mischievous. Around midnight, as the lounge began to empty and the music softened, Amarachi felt reality return like a slow wave. She had nowhere to go. Tebena must have noticed her change in expression. "You all right?" She nodded, though she clearly wasn't. He hesitated for the first time since they met. "You can stay at my place." The guest room, he clarified immediately. "You'll be safe. It's close by." Amarachi's heart raced. She considered refusing. She considered walking into the night alone. She considered calling her parents, then dismissed the idea instantly. Trusting strangers was foolish. But sometimes life forced you to choose the lesser danger. She studied his face, calm, respectful, unbothered whether she said yes or no. Her instincts didn't scream danger. They whispered opportunity. "Escape. There." "Okay," she said softly. "Just for the night." He stood and offered a hand, not to touch her, just guiding her toward the door. Outside, the Harmattan breeze brushed her cheeks. Tebena led her to a quiet street where a sleek black SUV was parked. She paused. "That's your car?" He shrugged modestly. "It gets me from place to place." No bragging. No explanation. But something about it tugged at her curiosity. This stranger didn't quite match this simple appearance. There was something hidden. She couldn't name it yet. But she would soon. Because that night, Christmas lights glowing across the city, Harmattan dust swirling like a whispered warning, Amarachi stepped inside his car. And unknowingly stepped into the biggest twist of her life. The drive to Victoria Island was quiet, not the uncomfortable kind, but the kind that felt like a pause in the universe. The city outside flickered with Christmas lights, shopfronts draped in glowing stars, palm trees wrapped in gold tinsel, roadside vendors selling Santa hats beside bowls of roasted corn. Amarachi watched the city blur past, feeling the weight of everything she'd run from and the uncertainty of everything ahead. Tebena drove calmly, one hand on the wheel, eyes focused. Even from the side, there was something oddly dignified about him. Not stiff. Not arrogant. Just composed, like someone used to making decisions without panic. "You sure you're okay?" he asked quietly as they stopped at a red light. She nodded, though her chest still felt tight. "Just overwhelmed." "I understand." And somehow she believed he did. They turned into a quiet street lined with tall palm trees. The air felt calmer here, as though this part of Lagos had carved out a pocket of peace for itself. Tebena pulled up in front of a modern high-rise building. Sleek glass exterior, soft exterior lighting, and a water feature that shimmered under the nighttime glow. Amarachi blinked. "This is where you live?" "Temporarily," he said simply, already stepping out. Temporarily? This place looked like the kind of building people fought waiting lists to get into. Inside, the lobby was quiet. A Christmas wreath hung on the wall, but the real showpiece was the decor. Polished concrete floors, warm wooden accents, and towering indoor plants that gave the place a tropical luxury vibe. The security guards greeted Tabena with a respectful nod, not the casual "good evening, sir" kind, but the subtle, deferential kind usually reserved for people who mattered. It sent a strange chill down Amarachi's spine. Who exactly was he? The elevator ride was silent except for the soft hum of holiday jazz playing overhead. Amarachi's fingers fidgeted with the strap of her bag. "You're safe," Tabena said without looking at her, as if he sensed her nervousness. She wanted to believe him. And surprisingly, she did. When the elevator opened on the 14th floor, the hallway was dimly lit with warm recessed lights. Tabena unlocked a door at the end of the corridor. The moment she stepped inside, Amarachi's breath caught. The apartment looked like something out of an architectural magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Lagos skyline, glittering like scattered diamonds. The furniture was minimalist, clean lines, soft gray upholstery, black metal accents. A textured rug centered the living room, and abstract artwork hung on the walls. Soft lighting cast a golden glow over everything, making the place feel warm despite its modern edges. A tall Christmas tree stood by the window, decorated modestly but tastefully with silver ornaments and soft white lights. It wasn't loud or flashy. It felt personal. "Tabena," Amarachi whispered, unable to hide her awe. "This is beautiful." He shrugged, almost shyly. "It's just a space." "Just a space?" With a view that looked like Lagos itself was posing for a portrait? She glanced at him again. Something wasn't adding up. "You live here alone?" she asked casually. "For now." The same vague answer as before. She wanted to press him, but she didn't know him well enough. Not yet. Tabena walked ahead and gestured toward a small hallway. "Your room is the first on the left. Fresh sheets. Bathrooms inside." "Thank you," she said quietly. He nodded. "They'll be in the study if you need anything." Study. Not room. Not office. Study. Another hint of someone who lived in two worlds. When he turned to leave, Amarachi finally allowed herself to exhale. She entered the guest room, and her heartbeat softened. The decor matched the apartment. Simple, elegant, warm. A dark wooden bed frame, soft bedding, a wall-mounted lamp, and a large abstract painting that looked like swirling shades of gold and navy. She sank onto the bed, her mind spinning. Her parents. The arranged marriage. The stranger who wasn't really a stranger. This apartment that screamed money, quiet money, old money, serious money. Who exactly had she trusted tonight? As she lay back, staring at the ceiling, she told herself she'd only stay until morning. Just enough to gather her thoughts and plan her next move. But somewhere between the hum of the city below and the faint sound of Christmas jazz drifting from the living room, she drifted off. Safe. Warm. For the first time in months, unafraid. And she didn't know that, a few rooms away, Tabena stood by the window, phone in hand, jaw tense, eyes thoughtful. His security team had been searching for him all night. But he had chosen to disappear. All because of her. Amarachi woke to soft sunlight filtering through the curtains, warm, golden, almost tender. For a few seconds she forgot where she was. The room felt too calm, too quiet, too peaceful to belong to her life. Then it hit her. She wasn't home. She wasn't being forced into marriage. She wasn't trapped. She was in a stranger's apartment. A stranger who was far too mysterious to be ordinary. She sat up, pressing a hand to her forehead. The events of the previous night replayed. Running away, the lounge, Tabena's quiet confidence, the apartment that looked like a luxury hotel suite. Her stomach clenched. She needed to leave. Before sunrise turned into questions she wasn't ready for. She slipped out of bed and tiptoed into the hallway. The apartment was silent. Suspiciously silent. A faint smell of coffee drifted through the air, mingling with the soft instrumental Christmas music playing low in the background. She walked toward the living room and froze. Tabena stood by the window, facing away from her, speaking into his phone in a voice far firmer, colder, and more commanding than anything she'd heard the night before. "No press releases," he said sharply. "Tell them I'm fine. Personal reasons, nothing else. And I don't want any reporters near the building. Understood?" Amarachi's pulse jumped. Reporters? Press releases? Who was this man? His tone softened slightly. "Just handle it. They'll be back soon." He ended the call, sighed, and ran a hand through his hair. In that moment, he didn't look like the calm stranger from the lounge. He looked like someone carrying a world she couldn't see. Before she could retreat, the floor creaked beneath her feet. Tabena turned. Their eyes met. For a split second, she saw surprise, then relief. "You're awake," he said, his voice returning to that gentle steadiness she recognized. "Sorry," she murmured, embarrassed. "I didn't mean to overhear anything. It's fine." He offered a small smile, but his eyes carried shadows. "You hungry?" She opened her mouth to say no, she should leave, she shouldn't stay, but her stomach betrayed her with a low, traitorous growl. He chuckled, the tension in the room easing. "They'll take that as a yes. Breakfast?" "No, I should go," she said quickly. "I didn't mean to cause you trouble." "You didn't?" His expression softened. "But you shouldn't rush out on an empty stomach. Sit. Then you can decide whatever you want." There it was again, that gentle way he gave her space without abandoning her. It disarmed her more than sweetness ever could. The kitchen was minimalist and beautiful. Matte black cabinets, quartz countertops, and soft underglow lighting. Tabena moved with easy familiarity, fixing omelets and warming bread like someone used to living alone. Amarachi sat at the counter watching him. "Do you always cook?" she asked. "When I have time." Another vague answer. "Is everything okay? With the call earlier?" His pause was subtle but noticeable. "Just work." Or another non-answer. She wanted to pry, but she wasn't sure she had the right to yet. When he placed her plate in front of her, she noticed something she hadn't caught before. His wristwatch, though simple, was a limited edition model she had only ever seen in magazines. She swallowed. He wasn't middle class. He wasn't regular rich. He was top 1% rich. The kind of rich that didn't need to prove anything. "You're quiet," he observed, sipping coffee. "I'm just thinking." "About last night?" he asked gently. She nodded. "Do you regret coming here?" She looked up, meeting his eyes, steady, sincere, unthreatening. "No," she said softly. "I don't." He exhaled as though relieved. Before either of them could say more, Tabena's phone buzzed on the counter. He glanced at it, his jaw tightening briefly. "Everything all right?" she asked. He hesitated. Then, "My security team. They're dramatic." Dramatic? They sounded frantic. Before she could respond, a loud knock echoed from the front door. 3 short knocks. Then 2 long ones. A coded pattern. Tabena closed his eyes briefly, like someone bracing for impact. "Stay here," he said gently. He walked to the door, unlocked it slightly. And a large man in a black suit stepped inside, scanning the apartment with military precision. His gaze landed on Amarachi and his surprise was visible. "Sir," the man said, lowering his voice, "we've been searching for you everywhere. The board is restless. The media is already asking questions." "Board? Media? Searching?" Amarachi's breath caught. Tabena nodded calmly. "I said I'd handle it. And I will. But sir." "That's enough, Chike." The man fell silent immediately. Then Amarachi noticed something chilling. He wasn't treating Tabena like a friend. Or a wealthy client. Or a boss. He was treating him like someone important. Very important. Tabena glanced back at her, an apology in his eyes. There was no turning back now. Not for him. Not for her. Before she could speak, Chike cleared his throat and addressed her directly. "Madam, do you know who you're with?" Tabena shot him a sharp warning look. And in that moment, Amarachi realized. Whatever truth was coming next would change everything. Silence swelled in the room, thick, tense, charged. Amarachi felt her heartbeat pounding in her ears as Chike's question hung in the air. "Madam, do you know who you're with?" Tabena stiffened. "Chike. Outside. Now. Sir. Now." There was steel in Tabena's voice, quiet, controlled, but powerful. Chike hesitated only a second before stepping onto the balcony. Tabena followed, sliding the glass door shut behind them. But the balcony door wasn't soundproof. Soft hums of conversation filtered through. Amarachi didn't try to eavesdrop. But the words still found her. "Sir, with all due respect," Chike whispered urgently, "you disappearing without notice, especially today, has caused a commotion. The shareholders are panicking. They think something happened to you. I needed air." Tabena's voice was calm but firm. "And the girl?" Chike asked cautiously. "Who is she? Should we be worried?" "The situation is delicate." "She's not a situation," Tabena snapped softly. "She needed help." "I help." Chike exhaled. "Sir, you are not just anybody. You are." The balcony door muffled the rest of the sentence. But Amarachi didn't need the ending. She already felt it in her bones. She wasn't staying with an ordinary man. Not even a wealthy man. Something about him had been too polished. Too intentional. Too hidden. Her throat tightened. Suddenly, her little rebellion, her fleeing from home, her desperate night of freedom felt wildly out of place in this luxury penthouse with men in suits and coated knocks. Before she could spiral, the balcony door slid open. Tebena stepped back inside alone. His expression was unreadable. "Amarachi," he said quietly, "I owe you an explanation." Her fingers curled around the edge of her chair. She wanted to stay calm. She wanted to appear composed. But fear and curiosity battled inside her. "Who are you?" she whispered. Tebena hesitated, long enough to show he had spent years hiding the answer. Then, "My full name is Tebena Odegwu." Odegwu. The name hit her like a shockwave. Everyone in Lagos knew that name. Odegwu Tech. The empire of empires. The CEO no one ever saw unless it was a major global event. The man who avoided media, avoided appearances, avoided the spotlight. The man rumored to be a billionaire despite looking younger than most company directors. "You." Her voice trembled. "You're the Odegwu Tech CEO?" He nodded slowly. "I didn't want you to find out like this." Her pulse raced. "But last night you didn't say anything." "You didn't ask," he said softly. "And for once, I wasn't obligated to be him." She stared at him, breath shaking. "Why were they looking for you?" she asked. He exhaled. "Because disappearing is unusual for someone with my responsibilities. There's an annual board meeting today. Very high stakes. I didn't show up. All because of her?" "No," she whispered. "You can't skip something like that because of me." "I didn't skip because of you," he corrected gently. "I stayed away because last night was the first time in months. I wasn't performing. I wasn't managing. I wasn't controlling outcomes. I was just a person." Her chest tightened painfully. "I didn't want to lie to you," he continued. "But I also didn't want you to see me through the filter everyone else uses. Money, power, expectations." She swallowed hard. And now you know," he said quietly. Silence fell again, heavy, fragile, electric. Amarachi rose to her feet. She needed space. She needed air. She needed her brain to catch up to the reality standing in front of her. "I don't belong in your world," she whispered. Tebena stepped closer, slowly, respectfully. "You don't belong in a world where someone makes decisions for you," he said. "But mine? You walked into it on your own." Her breath caught. "And if you want to walk out," he added gently, "I won't stop you." Something flickered in her chest. Fear. Hope. Something in between. "Why did you help me?" she finally asked. He held her gaze, sincere and unflinching. "Because you looked like someone who was fighting to breathe," he said softly. "And I know exactly what that feels like." Her throat tightened painfully. Then Tebena cleared his throat, stepping back to give her space. "The car will take you wherever you want to go. You don't owe me anything, Amarachi. Not explanation. Not gratitude. Nothing." Something inside her ached at the finality of that sentence. But before she could speak, a notification flashed on his phone. His expression shifted, controlled shock. "What is it?" she asked. He looked at her slowly. "My team just sent an alert. Someone leaked that I disappeared last night." He swallowed. "And that I wasn't alone." Her stomach dropped. "Pictures? There must have been pictures." Tebena turned the phone toward her. It was her. A blurred doorway photo of her entering the lounge last night. Then another of her leaving with him. Amarachi grabbed the counter to steady herself. "Oh God." The caption below the image read, "Mystery woman seen with Odegwu Tech CEO? Who is she?" Her world tilted. Her lungs strained. Her plans for a quiet escape? Gone. Everything she tried to run from? Now 10 times worse. And the chapter closed on one truth. Amarachi wasn't invisible anymore. She had accidentally stepped into a storm. And every path forward would change her life. Amarachi thought running away from an arranged marriage was her biggest problem. Until she woke up in a billionaire's penthouse. Until the media leaked their photos. Until her name, her face, became the center of a scandal she never asked for. Who exposed them? Why were they being watched? And what will happen now that the entire country is demanding answers? The storm is only just beginning. And Amarachi has no idea how deep she's already fallen. Want to know what happens in the next part of the story? Make sure you like, subscribe so you don't miss the next explosive part.